Thankful for her good ministry. She's new to the position as well, so Deb and I are kind of learning and figuring out together what to do. Couple of orders of business before I share a short devotion for us. One is that the secretary, the person that takes minutes, officially we have to elect that person. And I think that was that Michelle that's going to do that? Do I remember the name?
Melissa.
Melissa, apologies, Melissa. And if you all know who Melissa is, we need to affirm her. Of course, voting no means volunteering to take the minutes. So I encourage you to vote yes. If you would support Melissa taking the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, it is supported. Thank you for doing that for us. We appreciate it. So need to vote to make this into a church conference. That allows everybody present who is a member of your church to vote. If you would do that, could you please raise your hand? Okay, that is approved. So let me share a few words. This is one of the most important scriptures to me, and it's important to me because it tells me that following Jesus is a relatively simple matter. And so I want to share these words. This is Matthew 22, and it's verses 34 to 40. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest? He said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. To me, that's what's important about church, is that we're growing in love with God and that we're expressing our love for God by the love that we show to other people. That's fairly simple. It's not always easy because it's not always easy to love our neighbor, but that's what is so important that we do. But even though it's simple and it's not easy, we in the church have a tendency to make it complicated, don't we? We have a United Methodist Book of Discipline, and we Methodists have managed to change loving God and loving your neighbor into 898 pages in the Book of Discipline, which is kind of remarkable to me. But you folks at St. Francis know how to do this. You know how to love God and you know how to love your neighbors. I'm aware of the work you do that you've done over the years with refugees, that you've done with people suffering from AIDS. I'm aware of so many ways that you reach out with love and concern to your neighbors. And I am so very appreciative of that. And I'm appreciative of the way that you model love for your neighbor for all of the rest of us. And so thank you for your faithfulness in that. I really appreciate all of you. We wanted to make church conference as simple as possible for this year. We have heard from a lot of clergy how full a time it is in this time of pandemic, in a time when we're not meeting together for worship, in a time when there's the national election is coming up, a time when denominational issues and a division within our denomination has kind of just been put on a hold for this year, and looking forward to next year. It is very difficult. And so we wanted to not add to the stress level for pastors and church leaders by making this time as simple as possible. So we're just going to go through the order that we need to cover tonight, and then we will proceed to be finished. Are y'all hearing me okay, by the way? Is it okay? All right. So the order for our agenda, I have a leadership team report followed by a nominations report. We'll do the membership report. We'll have a stewardship report, clergy compensation that needs to be voted on. We'll vote to approve any candidates for ministry, any lay servant ministers, any certified lay ministers that may be approved tonight. And that's our agenda. Any questions about the agenda? Okay, great. So first, leadership team report. Jim or the lay leaders, do you have something to share for the leadership?
The difficulty is this. Melissa has that report and she does not have internet at her house, so she's on the phone. So we don't have a copy of it, but
Okay.
not much has changed from last year. We have a couple of vacancies. Let me tell you about probably the largest one. I want to say thank you to Lana. If you'll look at her over there and stick out your tongue at her or something, because she's going to step down as our lay leader. And so we're looking still to fill that. So Lana, thank you for that work. Other than that, most things are pretty much the same as they have been.
So when I was reviewing the nominations report, it looked like there were some blanks under the nominations team. Are those going to be selected later? Do we need to?
I would love to have the nominations teams filled. We did not, we didn't fill that last year.
Okay.
So it's been piecemeal putting it together this year.
Okay, so we're gonna hold off on that and you'll address that with your leadership team during the year, is that?
I would rather address it here, but that's.
You want us, so we can take nominations for that if some are
Can
willing?
we?
Yeah, sure. Jim, do you want to say what that team does and anybody?
So the nominations team or the lay leadership team basically is the one who talks to and puts people into the different leadership roles. I need people who have connection, and I need people who have the old time connection and the new time connection. We need both those types of people. We need folks that can reach into all the different areas of the church. So it needs to be a diverse team that way. So the first thing I think we ought to do is say who would like to be part of that nominations team. Don't be afraid.
What does the team do?
Sorry, the team is who fills up the rest of the teams. They're the ones who find the people who will be part of the other teams in the church.
Do they meet several times a year, monthly? Can people get a sense of what the expectation would be?
They can meet however much we decide to meet. We can do it all by phone. We could do it, try to fit it into a month and get it all done if you want to do it that way. However the team chooses to do it. There's really no rules about how it has to be done. We need probably 5 to 10 people would be the best so that nobody is making too many calls.
I can reach old timers.
I will put your name down, Joy. I guess after we vote for you, but I'll put your name down because I think that people will say, of course we want Joy.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Joy.
Don't be too afraid. If there's a bunch of us, it makes it much simpler.
Well, I know some of the newer ones and some of the older ones.
I will write your name down, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Ed, go ahead.
I don't get around that much, but I'm willing to serve.
I will write you down.
Thank you so much. Are there a couple more folks that could help Pastor Jim with this?
Can we recruit more for this committee? If nobody at the conference is raising their hand.
All right, I'll work on twisting some other arms. Can we vote on those three?
Vote on those. Can you repeat those names back to us? So
That
we
is
know?
Joy, Wendy, and Ed.
Okay. So they're going to be joining the slate of nominations that we'll be voting on tonight. Kay had her hand up. Kay? No? Okay. All right. Any other
I
comments?
was
on-
just voting.
Okay. Anything else about the nominations report, Jim?
No, thank you.
Have people seen that list, or is that just a continuation of last year plus those
It's
three
pretty
names?
much a continuation of last year.
Okay. So for the nominations report, we're receiving that we're going to continue the names from last year. People will continue serving in their current roles. Lana, I understand, is going off as lay leader, and you're looking for a new one. And we those three names for the nominations team. Any questions or comments about any of that? Jim, do we have polls set up to do voting? Or are we just going to do hand in?
I think
and-
just hand voting. Those
Okay.
of you that are not visual, you can click on reactions and you can put an icon up if you would like to. There's some icons there to say that you say yes or no. Yes, like
Okay.
Ann just did.
Yeah, so you
So
can,
the rest of you could just raise your hand or whatever as well.
when I click on reactions, I can put a thumbs up like that. Yeah, that's a good way to do that. So you can either vote by raising your hand, or you can put up a symbol for reactions. If you would approve the slate of nominations, would you raise your hand or put a little picture up on your screen? Okay. Let's take those little pictures off and put your hands down.
Jim,
Yes,
could we get a copy of who is presently serving on those teams by email or something?
I don't have the copy of it yet. Melissa will send it out tomorrow.
Oh, there's no rush, but just so we could see who's on, and then some of us might have suggestions for the nominating team without being on it.
Good.
Okay, I saw a lot of hands up, and so that means that slate of nominations has been accepted. How about the membership? Can we share about that? Is someone available to share about that?
Melissa?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah, I'm
you
here.
tell us what you did this morning?
Where do you want me to start?
Tell me the membership things that you knew, that you remember. Matt, she sent that to you. You could share your screen if you have that.
Yeah, I think I can. Hang on a second.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Sorry, I didn't have it with me. So basically, we had, I think we took in a total of 17 from our last conference. I believe 3 of those or 4 were from a non-UMC, and but we didn't have any transfers in that I was aware of. And we have lost, oh God, I can't remember if it was 8, I think it was 8 people to who are deceased now. 4 of those were members and 4 were non-members.
The one question I had is that it looks like you had deaths for 6 people, and it didn't look like they were taken off membership. Is that something you wanted to know?
I'm sorry, Matt, you broke up. I could not get that.
Okay, I'm sorry. It looks like we had deaths of 6 church members. And let me just say their names so we can
Right.
remember.
I couldn't remember. It was Robbie Dick, it was Marge Hefty, and Marv Ruther.
Right, plus Darwin Lundy,
Oh, yes, Darlene Dean, yes.
Randall Scott, Norman Weber. And
Yes,
so,
those are all members.
yeah, we're grateful for them and remember them now. Those would typically be removed from your list of members. So would that make it 2, 3 if we do that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so we can correct that. So
Yep.
members received would be 18 and then members removed would be 6. And so that would be 2, 3.
Okay, yes, I've got that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just had that up and then I forgot to share it. Let me see if I can find it again. Are y'all seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll see at the top 260, 18 received. We just changed that 0 to 6 to reflect those who have gone on to be with. That leaves us with 273. Are there any questions about the member?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing that.
I'm sorry, just asking if there's any questions about the membership.
Thank you.
Okay, thank Melissa for working on that. Preparing a membership report is kind of like balancing your checkbook. Not a lot of fun. So numbers don't add up, so I'm grateful that she's done that.
Explains a lot.
So thank you for doing that. We don't have it, we haven't had any discussion on that, so we're ready to approve it. If you would approve the membership report, can you raise your hand or react to the screen? All right, you can put your hands down or take your reaction off. Any opposed? Okay, that is approved. Good work. Jim, is there someone on that would like to share a word about the financial status of the church? No long report is needed, but.
Who shall we pick on? Where is Paula?
I'm
Paula,
here, yeah. My name is Paula Van Ness and I am the new chair of the Finance Committee. We have reviewed reports every month. We are awaiting the September numbers. Our committee has appreciated how carefully the staff has worked to control the expenses, how the changes that were made in response to the COVID epidemic have kept us in a positive position with our revised budget. And so we are cautiously optimistic that if the trends that we are seeing now continue, that we will be able to end the year in the black. But there's a lot that can happen. And I should add that We are having conversations about what the implications would be if and when we get notice that we can reopen, and the need for additional staff even now. And so the congregation will be hearing more from the Finance Committee on this topic as we move into our stewardship drive and we look at the possibility of trying to bring back staff earlier if we can.
Very good. Any questions or comments? It's a wonderful report that the church is doing well financially at a time when you can't meet for worship. And that means a couple things. That means one, that you have wise leaders who are managing your money well. And two, it means that there's a lot of people who are very generous in the congregation. And so I'm really grateful for all of you for being
I have a question.
Yeah,
Are we paying our dues, whatever the word is?
Apportionments.
Apportionment, thank you.
We
Yes,
have not been paying the apportionment, and that is a topic of conversation, and we acknowledge that that's one of the reasons why we're in a solid position right now. So
Yeah, because I so disagree with our church not doing that when we are a part of the Methodist Church, and the national church needs our money too. And so I always get upset when we say we're doing well, but we're not paying our apportionment. It's like not paying our rent in my mind.
Ditto.
Thank you.
we appreciate that, and there are many who share that view, yes.
So I know that you'll be in having conversation and deciding what you need to do as a church. We appreciate all the generosity that you can offer in your support of the denomination.
So how are we? We're not even helping to pay your salary then, are we, Matt? Because doesn't that come from the apportionment?
It does, yeah. So if when churches aren't able to or don't contribute, then that falls to other churches to cover.
Yeah.
Okay. We do need to make sure Pastor Jim gets paid because he works really hard, and we want to make sure that he and his family are taken care of. I think Sue DeMoltz might be able to talk about his clergy compensation package for next year. Sue, is that something you can do?
So you sound great, but you're muted.
I'm not muted.
Sue is muted. There you go. There
Is
you
it
go.
off? Okay.
Okay.
Matt, do you want every line read, or would you just like the total figure? How do you like that done?
Yeah, I think you could just tell them the total compensation package, that bottom line, and then indicate whether there's a raise from last year.
I'll be happy to do that. The bottom line is $114,846.50. This does represent about a $1,900 raise, and that raise came in our contribution to the conference health insurance. Jim did not receive a raise in his salary. There was no raise in the housing allowance or continuing ed reimbursement or annual conference session fees. Those all remained the same. The conference portion is out of our control. They send the number from the conference treasurer's office that our church is asked to pay, and we pay that. And that number, if you want, is $14,796. That's our portion of the conference health insurance.
Are there any? Oh yeah, we see Sam has a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Can we address a specific account question right now. Is this an appropriate time to do this? I'm thinking particularly on Jim's account, Jim's payment. Is that right?
Yeah, if it's a question about his compensation package, then yes, you can ask.
Yeah. Can we address that?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Is this an appropriate time to do that?
Yeah. I don't quite understand the question though. Could you repeat the question?
Sam, go ahead and repeat your question.
Oh, the question is this. Jim has not had a raise in his salary. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I
Go
can
ahead.
answer that. Last year, and I will say against Jim's wishes, we did give him a 3% raise. Steph Parrish just said, you've worked long enough here without a raise. The first 6 years he did, first 5 years he did not have a raise. This last year there was a 3% raise. But there is no raise this year for 2021. That would be correct.
Okay, thank you. So
Uh-huh.
is this a time to raise the suggestion anyway that his salary be increased by a percentage mark? Or not?
It would be appropriate if somebody felt like that was appropriate. It would be appropriate to make a motion to that effect. You could say, I'd like to make a motion that we raise Jim's salary by 1% or 2% or something.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much 1% would be. I'm ready to move that question, but I don't know whether 1% is 1 quart of gasoline for the car or a full tank.
Let me give you, Sam, it might help. I'll give you what his cash salary is. It is $56,650 per year.
Sam,
Okay.
I would prefer you not make that motion just because of apportionments that we already talked about, and also because of furloughed employees that need to be brought back on before that. I would rather either one of those have priority.
Okay. All right. If those priorities are taken care of, when can we address your not so much priority now?
I'm going to make a suggestion, Sam, that
Yes.
when we do get those other things to meet your approval and everybody else's approval, if you could bring your request to the Staff Parish Relations Committee anytime during the year, we'll entertain your desire to have his salary increased. If that meets with Matt's approval, here I speak like I'm chair of that committee, and we will honor that if anybody wants to bring that to our committee and review it, if that's appropriate, Matt.
When that's the right
I just
time.
wanted
That
to
would be-
add one thing, and that would be at this time of COVID and unemployment and everything, Jim, I thank you for suggesting we not increase your salary this year, because so many people are facing no salary or decreases in salary. I just really appreciate that you are saying that to us at our charge conference. So thank you.
Amen. I agree, Kay. I agree with what Kay said. Yes, that's perfect. I guess what's running in my mind is the number of times each day I've been getting notes from one of the political parties saying, will you donate another $5? Will you donate another $10? Would you be willing to do this every week? And I've been saying, well, I have donated, but I would rather that money, there's a priority there after November 4th. Maybe we'll all go to hell in a bucket. Who knows?
we're gonna hope that doesn't happen, but
Yes, sir, Matt, absolutely.
I appreciate your desire to be generous to your pastor, and I know that there are some other considerations as well. We want to take care of the other staff that you have. I appreciate Jim's leadership in reminding you of them tonight, and so I encourage you to do all you can to take care of your staff and your pastor, and I appreciate Kay's words and support of contributing to the apportionment. So thank you. Those are difficult conversations to have and decisions to make. And so I'll be in prayer for all of you and for your leadership as you make those financial decisions in the year ahead. Sue, if there is a point you decide you'd like to raise the pastor's salary, just shoot me an email and let me know that, so that we can make sure that the process at the annual conference that needs to happen happens. They have to change the pension and that stuff. So, okay.
Hey, thank you, Matt. And thank you, Sam.
One other issue related to Pastor Jim's compensation, is there a housing allowance resolution that needs to be passed?
Yes, I have that filled out for you. Would you like me to read it? How do you want that?
Let's just summarize first. What is the amount for the housing allowance?
His housing allowance is $25,000 a year for 2021.
Okay, 25,000.
Yes.
So in order Jim to take full advantage of the clergy tax law, he needs the charge conference to pass a resolution that specifically authorizes that $25,000 housing allowance as part of his cash compensation. Taking that action doesn't give Jim a $25,000 raise. It simply confirms that amount is what is going to the amount that you've already passed with your previous action. We could put that on the screen if anybody would like to see that, or if because it's written out as a. Let me see if it's up there. Here we go. I think I might have that in my. This was dispensation package we just voted on.
Mhm.
I guess I don't see it in here.
Oh, you had it there.
At the compensation.
I had the compensation. It's
And-
like the
and-
next,
It's at the top of that compensation page.
let's see if it's down here.
I thought I saw it. Not twice.
Yeah,
I don't know, Matt. I know that I did turn it in to Melissa because it does have to be in the minutes of this meeting. And also.
Stop there.
There it is.
It's
There
right
it
there.
is.
yeah. This is the amount right here, $25,000.
Yes, yes.
The specific wording to the resolution that I was trying to. I don't see it here, but what we're acting on is to authorize specifically $25,000 housing allowance. Any questions about what we're doing, or any comments?
I'm curious about the math.
Okay.
The only comment I have, Matt, is I have given a copy of this to Melissa to include in the minutes of this meeting, which is part of rules and regulations. But also, it does need to be signed by the church council chair or the finance chair.
So you'll have to track
So
those.
ask one of those two chair people if they can arrange with Melissa to sign this form that she can put in with the minutes.
And then you'll want to provide Jim with a copy of that to save it with his tax record.
Mhm.
Any other questions or conversation? If you would vote to approve, could you raise your hand or put up a reaction?
Well, I noticed they seem to limit housing conversations to 25% of salary. Obviously, 25 versus 56 doesn't match up.
Ed, the 56,650 is Jim's cash salary. And then we give him $25,000 housing allowance. If you add the two together, it's $81,650, the total compensation. Does that help? We add those two together, then we go into benefits, which is pension and the health insurance, and then the expenses. And again, the total package is $846.50. Does that help?
No. No, it says 25% of cash salary.
That's for the parsonage.
Yes,
I understand.
That box is not checked.
yeah.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I thought it was a requirement. Yeah. My error.
yeah. That box is for, that only applies if a pastor is provided a parsonage to live in, which your pastor isn't. So it doesn't apply to you.
So does that mean then that Pastor Jim will still be able to get an amount for his donut meetings?
Occasional.
Yeah, looks like donuts are provided for in the.
Good. All right.
Yeah,
I so move.
I think that's covered. So we had a question while we were in the midst, and so we're going to go back and vote again. If you could approve by raising your hand or putting up a reaction, we appreciate you doing that. Okay, you can go ahead and put those down. If anybody is opposed, please raise your hand. I don't see any opposed, so that passes. Jim, are there any candidates for ministry we need to vote to confirm?
We have just the one who is a lay speaker, not for
So we
minutes.
have a lay servant who needs to be affirmed, and what's that person's name?
That's me.
That's Wendy.
Oh, that's Wendy. Okay, Wendy. Jim, can you say a word about Wendy and her ministry?
Want a good one or?
I want the best one. Yeah.
Wendy is doing a marvelous job. Most of you know Wendy. She is one of our lay people to our annual conference, lay member. And she is very active in a number of different roles, including on SPRC. So if you haven't heard her, you ought to listen to her.
So Wendy's had to take a certain number of classes in order to attain that status and keep up with her training. The lay servant classes provide some really great leadership training. I encourage anybody who's interested to pursue that. And you can become a lay servant without doing public speaking if that's not really what you're interested in. If your interests are in doing other things like the social justice ministries that you do or other roles, you can utilize lay servant skills in those areas too. So it's really for building up leadership within the church. So I encourage that of anybody that is interested.
And if you ever have to take a church class in church polity, which is one of the tougher ones, look for a teacher called Beth Rambacure. You can make the most boring class interesting.
Oh, that's good. So we need to vote to affirm Wendy's ministry as a certified lay servant. If you would do that, could you raise your hand? You have done so. So she is affirmed. Wendy, we're grateful for you and your ministry. I also want to mention someone I haven't tonight. Mary is on the call, who is chaplain AMM. He is part of your congregation and is a blessing, I know, to you. I think also Raleigh.
It's Tucson Medical Center, not TMM.
Right. I've lived away from Tucson for 3 years, so my initials have started mixing up in my mind. But I'm grateful for Mary's presence in your congregation and leadership, and Raleigh as well, I know, is on the call. I expect some other of your staff are here too. And I know you all are great support to everybody else that's working in the church. I want to thank all of you for your good leadership.
Well, there's definitely blessings for this church.
Definitely so. Yeah. Those are all
Matt,
yeah.
at charge conferences, folks who are in extension ministry often make a report
Yeah.
or file a report of their ministry in the last year.
Yeah.
Is that something you're doing in the current format during COVID?
I think we'd be excited to hear what you're doing. Yeah, please go ahead.
This has been a very strange year in hospital chaplaincy, as you might well imagine. With a lot of changes, and we're still in the middle of the COVID pandemic. Although at least here in Southern Arizona, the numbers are much, much lower than they were at the peak. So what ministries looked like in chaplaincy in the past years has remained the same in a lot of ways, but has changed in a lot of ways. Where we are being asked to step in and step up to be with folks whose families cannot be physically present with them in the hospital because of visitation restrictions for general visitation, but also in particular for patients who are dying with COVID, and some of whom have been in the ICU, for weeks upon weeks, intubated and so forth. At TMC, we're blessed in a way that we've been able to get families closer. I mean, in other places that are high rises, folks who could not even get close to their loved ones. It was kind of poignant though, but because we could get them as close as the window for our intubated COVID patients, for their safety and the safety of the general public. And they would have to say their goodbyes from the window with that pane of glass between them and their loved ones. But we as chaplains were called to be there with the families at the windows to provide spiritual care and support, and to be there for folks who could not drive in from far away. When we were part of the surge line, when ICUs in different parts of the state were overrun and didn't have any extra beds, patients would be moved around from hospital to hospital, trying to get a hospital closest to their home. But if there was no room at the inn, they would get transferred to a hospital that did have space. And so we had some patients that were, from Phoenix, or we had one patient at least from northeastern Arizona, way far away from home. But our challenge was to be there for patients and their families in new and different ways. And so we adapted in those ways. Then we also adapted to support our staff people, our nurses, our frontline workers, who were bearing the brunt of the emotional and physical labor of all of that. And so we were there to motivate and to commiserate and to provide emotional and spiritual support to them. And we're innovating in different ways. Just like the folks in the local church have had to create and motivate and do things in different ways. We had to do that as well. So it's been a challenging landscape. And then the normal things that go on in hospitals from day to day still were happening as well. So it's been a unique and challenging experience, and we're hopeful that we will get through this soon, and because we are caring for one another in all the ways that are helpful, like mask wearing and hand sanitizing and being careful of being careful with one another and in each other's presence. And it's been a blessing to be a witness to God at work in the world, even when it seems like God is silent or absent. That we can be there in that gap, and in that gap between you all, as the gathered community, the gathered and beloved community, and extend that outreach of beloved community out into the world. So it's been challenging and crazy, but it's been the hardest good thing that I think I've done. So thank you for being the community that I can be a part of and draw sustenance from in order to do that work.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
Hospital chaplaincy is a special calling, and I can only imagine how difficult it's been for you and for your fellow chaplains this year. And so we thank you for this ministry, and I invite your community to continue to love, care, and support you in this ministry, because I know how important that is.
Let me also commend, because one of our other ministers in the conference, one of our deacons, Reverend Amy Barron Gafford, who's also a member of the St. Francis community, works at Tucson Medical Center, actually works for me as one of my per diem chaplains. And she has been doing amazing work for us as well, and is both in patient care and care of our staff, but also using some of her artistic creativity in terms of innovative ways we've tried to reach out to the community by we have what's called a status board, which is outside the chapel in the hallway. So if you're ever there, walk by, and it's basically has a circulating PowerPoint presentation that tells about chaplaincy and what we do and how we can serve. but also has been offering creative and motivational slides. We're all in this together. So she's also put some of Reverend Cynthia Langston Kirk's breath prayers, set those in a slide form on that for our status board as well. So it's incorporating all of those things. And so I'm very, very grateful to have Amy Barron Gafford on my staff, and she's doing amazing and wonderful work. Couldn't do it without her as well.
Thank you. And Amy's name to our attention. We appreciate her. Friends, I've been blessed to be part of our conversation tonight and to visit with you all. I thank you, and I look forward to when we're together in person so I can meet you in person. Jim with his hand up. Yeah, Jim.
Can I bring up several things just for celebration, most of them? First of all, I just want you to look at Art Evans. The trustees committee has been doing some wonderful things. If you haven't been up here, then you don't know that the parking lot has been recovered and it looks beautiful. And the community center has also has a new roof to it, has a new covering to the roof. And so if you get to talk to Art, please tell him thank you for that. There are several members here of the celebration team. Raleigh, Judy, Andy, the celebration team has just been doing magnificent work. And so please, if you get a chance to say thank you to any of them, please do that. I want to especially thank Raleigh, the number of times that he has spoken through this year and made it much easier for me in the midst of all this. Please give a round of applause to him for that work. I want to talk about the Melissa. She's here. Steve is not. They are just doing such incredible work, both of them. And in the midst of really difficult times, especially keep Steve in your prayers as Tim is going through his chemo treatments or his treatments. He doesn't know what the treatments will be yet, but as they're facing his cancer diagnosis and the next steps, please surround Tim and Steve there. Please remember Grace today. It is Marv's birthday. And so as we mourned him, as we continue to mourn him, as we had his celebration on Saturday, she is now struggling through the next steps. So keep them surrounded in prayer. A note of joy, Trish Moore was, I'm gonna say it this way. She's up for a Grammy. It's not quite that, but the Grammy Museum, she is a finalist for the Music Educator of the Year, one of only 25 in the United States. And so just prayers of thanks for that. Continue to pray for all of our folks that are still furloughed, and that we still have to figure out how to incorporate that back in. So keep all of them in prayers. I have one last thing that I want you to know is there. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it. This is our reopening plan. And I want you to partially just see it so I can tell you part of what it is. If you would like a copy of it, we will send it to you. All of you that are on church council should have gotten that. As I go through this, I want to name again the people that are part of this team: Steve and Melissa, Sue Gamotz, and Mike Wilkinson. And so it's a 4-phase program. The first one is stuff that we're already doing, and we put it there because we felt like this is not just until we get by, but that which needs to change as we go into the future. How do we continue to reach out through Zoom and whatnot? Phase 2 is if you think of phase 2 as the 10 or less, that would be the next phase we step into, is when we begin having that. Phase 3 is the 50 or less. And that would be when we would come back together in some format as as a whole congregation. And then phase 3B is the other events that happen during that phase. And then phase 4 is the complete reopening. In addition to that, what you'll get is the second half of it, and that's all the attachments that help us to do things. How we're going to move in the celebration center, how we're going to help each other to continue to be safe. So if you'd like a copy of that, if you haven't received it yet, let me know. Just send me an email or something, and I will get a copy of that to you. All of Church Council you should have seen. Church Council will vote on that next Tuesday. All right. So if you want input, just let me know before then. That's it.
Those who put that together, I really appreciate that hard work. I have to, I'm charged by the bishop of reviewing your plan as well and approving it. So I need to apologize ahead of time and let you know I'm kind of picky. So my apologies if I send you requests, things that I'd like to see changed, but best to make sure that when churches come back, they come back in a safe manner. So thank you for your hard work. I really, really appreciate it. We've had a time of sharing the joys and the concerns of the faith community and made some important approvals and decisions for continued ministry in the church. I'm looking forward to visiting you again and hearing about what you're up to. And you are in my prayers, and I am available to you. So if you need something, please let me know. Thanks for having me tonight. Can we share a time of closing? Paula, you have something?
Yeah, I would hate to end this church conference without a special word of thanks to Pastor Jim. He's so quick to acknowledge everyone else, and he has been a steadfast leader. He has certainly extended himself greatly in offering lots of classes for us during this time and making sure that we have opportunities to feel connected. And I just want to acknowledge and thank him on behalf of all of us.
Yes, absolutely.
It was my privilege to hour with 40 minutes with your staff parish relations committee, and they spent the whole time talking good about Jim. So I've gotten the idea that he's a good pastor, which I appreciate him and his ministry here. So thank you, Jim, for your leadership.
It is absolutely entirely my pleasure.
Good. I want to build a little bit of silence into our closing blessing, because we do have some significant challenges in the world between COVID and between the election coming up and between the denominational divisions that we're facing. And so if you'll indulge me as we close our meeting, I'd like to call upon you to join me in praying for these situations, and then I'll close with a blessing, okay? So let's be in gratitude as we lift others. Living God, tonight we have celebrated the ministry of this faith community. We have celebrated the contributions of so many people in that ministry. We have asked for guidance and leadership as this faith community moves forward. We're in prayer for difficult decisions when they need to be made. We're in prayer for challenges that need to be met. We're in prayer for Jim and Raleigh. We're in prayer for Mary and for staff members as they lead and serve. We're in prayer for the lay leadership of this church. Living God, now we pray in the silence of our hearts for those who have been touched by COVID-19, for those who need healing gifts, for those who are grieving. Living God, we are in prayer now in the silence of our hearts for a safe, free, and fair election in a few weeks. Living God, we're in prayer for a future of Methodism that is a true expression of our call of God and love our neighbors. Loving God, we celebrate your living and loving presence in our lives. As you made the world and intended it to be a good place and called its people your children, because when things seemed at their worst, you came in Christ to bring out the best in us. So gracious God, we affirm that goodness is stronger than evil, that love is stronger than hate, that light is stronger than darkness, that truth is stronger than lies. Thanks be to God.
And she seemed sort of normal-ish.
Thank you, everybody. It's been my joy.
Well, probably her leg was more painful and she didn't spend enough time in bed.
Have a good evening.
Okay,
Thanks all.
bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh,
Good night.
hi.
Jim, are you there?
I am.
I heard everything from when I talked to you before. I heard from Mary on. So thank you for giving me that other number to call in on. I was managed to get through.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you, Liz.
yeah, and I'll look forward to seeing the recording for the first 3/4 of it. So that'll be good. Sorry I wasn't there. Okay.
I'm recording this and it'll be on our website somewhere. I can't tell you well, but Karen will know. All right.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Great. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.